Hello and welcome to Tech Talk, the Bankers video series on the developments in the global fintech community. I'm Joy Macknight, Technology Editor at The Banker, and I'm here with Stu Taylor, CEO and founder of Algomi, a bond information network. Stu, can you tell me a little bit about some of the issues that Algomi is set up to solve in the bond market?
For sure. So a big problem with the bond market right now is really just one of liquidity. I think you've got a new set of regulations which mean banks can't take any risk that really is long dated, which basically means bonds that they have to sit on for a long time. And really what we do is we help basically surface information to allow people to figure out who to call and make connections for people that they otherwise wouldn't have thought about. So it's really an information network, but in a much more social, in a much more sort of dynamic way than maybe has previously been done.
Okay, and how does the technology work?
So what we figured was actually there's a huge amount of data in the market, but it's essentially private data. It resides inside banks and allows banks to essentially share data firstly with their own sales and traders who may not be aware of everything that's going on internally, but also then share it with their clients. And so the right people are served up with the right data at exactly the right time, and then the connection is made.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about regulation and sort of some of the changes that are happening.
Yes.
Can you go into a bit more detail in terms of, what are the regulations doing to the bond market?
Sure, of course. So really the global premise is really about just reducing the amount of risk that banks take. A bond is classed as a risky asset, and so essentially this manifests in the form of a risk-weighted capital charge that a bank will apply to itself. And what that means is essentially an economic penalty for any trader who takes a risk position in a bond. What that's meant is any bond that I have to hold for more than a few weeks generally becomes a lot more expensive for me to just have on the balance sheet than it previously did. Therefore, the situation is I generally will not invest or trade in those bonds so actively, and I'll stay and keep all my risk taking in the more frequently traded bonds, which tends to be the sort of recent issues part of the market, and that's really where all the focus is. But it means the rest of the bond market, maybe the stuff that's not in vogue, has really struggled, and it really means that a lot of banks are no longer providing the risk support that they used to prior to the crisis.
And as a small fintech startup,
Sure.
Do you consider yourself to be a disruptor to the bank's business?
So I think we are really an enabler. I think banks have to evolve their business model. We don't believe there's going to be huge amounts of new risk-taking done by banks. That's certainly not the regulatory theme. What we do believe, though, is that information really is the enabler here. And what Algomi's role is really to allow banks to be better at managing their data, better at sharing that data, which is inherently private and sensitive in nature, with clients. You've also got the buy-side community, the investment management community, who also consider their data to be very private and are also not so keen to share it with the banks. So we provide a facility for that information exchange to take place in a way that both sides are comfortable, and yet we don't miss opportunities where banks and investors should really be sort of connecting. So we see ourselves really as an enabler to the next evolution of banking, rather than one that's sort of disruptive and trying to disintermediate the banks.
Okay. And obviously, we're still seeing some of the fallout happening from Brexit and the vote for the UK to leave the European Union as such. Do you think that's going to affect your business?
So we act as an information service. We're not really a regulated company ourselves, but obviously all of our clients generally are. So I think for us, we think Brexit it was obviously a shock, but at the same time, I think really we've been surprised also at how quickly it's been back to business as usual, and banks have continued to carry on. We'll wait and see if people start to relocate to different cities, but at the same time, if they do, the need for services like this, such as ours, don't really change. So for us, we think Brexit will be it's a blip that we have to watch, but I don't think it's fundamental in terms of the service we provide, and actually the need for it, because the regulations are global across Europe and certainly beyond. So I don't think it's so profound.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for coming in today, Steve.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you. It's been great.